Good afternoon, everybody. We welcome to the first webinar about the MicaSense Triple camera together with Inspired Flight Technologies and Solvi. My name is Erik de Watts, and I will be hosting this webinar for you. First of all, I must say that people are just still getting into the webinar. We are very excited because we have people from all over the world. I just we got like from more than 70 countries, but especially also a lot of people that are interested from the academic research companies and the academy, which is very important for us because we really think that these three tools together are the ultimate research grade drone imaging workflow. Okay, so let me present myself. First, I'm Erik de Watts. I'm the sales manager, the head of sales of MicaSense cameras, currently part of Eagle NXT. And we are doing this webinar together with Adam Blimes and Igor from Solvi. The webinar will be 3 parts. So first of all, the floor will go to Adam. He will explain how his drone platforms work together with our cameras and how they designed their drones for researchers. Then it'll come back to me where I will give a 15-minute, very short, but that's the time we have, about our latest triple camera and some really basic information about multispectral sensors. And last but not least, the floor will go to Igor, who will explain how you can best analyze the multispectral images and some good practices on how to acquire the best quality for the data. So welcome everybody. We are very excited for this webinar. And I will give the floor now to Adam.
Thanks, Erik. Awesome. Good to speak to you all. My name is Adam Bilmes. I'm one of the co-founders of Inspired Flight and lead business development, working with companies like Solvi, like MicaSense to integrate third-party capabilities, exceptional sensors to the drone platforms that we manufacture in California to offer full capabilities for research, for remote sensing, for precision agriculture to the market. So throughout this pretty brief presentation, you'll see photos of the two platforms that Inspired Flight manufactures, the IF800 Tomcat. I think the majority of these photos will have MicaSense imagery all the way from the standard MicaSense Ultim PT that you'd see like in this top image to the RedEdge-P, the RedEdge-P Dual, and of course the RedEdge-P Triple that we're excited to talk about today. So just a little bit about Inspired Flight. We've been around as a business since 2017. Our focus has been on the medium and heavy lift side of kind of the multi-rotor electric market, known as Part 107 here in the US, sub 55 pounds. If you're familiar with the DJI ecosystem, the IF800 Tomcat and the IF1200 kind of very similar in size and the use cases they serve to the M300, 400 series, and then the M600 on the IF1200. One of the really big advantages of our systems, including with the MicaSense cameras we're talking about today, is all the payloads that are fully integrated and supported by Inspired Flight, like the MicaSense, are swappable with other technologies. We have many customers in the research community specifically that uses LiDAR technologies, uses multispectral cameras from MicaSense, uses standard RGB photogrammetry cameras, and the ability to swap those payloads really helps, especially academic institutions, gain more value out of their drone assets to serve kind of their programs at these academic institutions without having to buy a ton of different drones for every various research capability. So just a little bit about the IF800 specifically. And one thing important I'll mention once is both aircraft that we serve and everything that Inspired Flight offers is on the Blue UAS, NDA compliance, kind of checks that government compliance made in USA box if you are facing sort of those headwinds in terms of the technologies that you're able to purchase, whether it's using federal grant dollars or working on critical infrastructure where there's restrictions around the types of drone technology you're able to use. So I'll say it once, we check all those boxes, but more importantly, talking about the IF800 system itself, it's class-leading flight time in its kind of against some of its competitors. With the MicaSense dual camera, like you see here, you're going to get about 38 to 40 minutes of usable flight time. Multiple MicaSense payloads that we'll talk about in a little bit and how those systems integrate to the system. And everything on our drone systems, both the IF1200 and the IF800, use what's called the smart dovetail system, which is a simple click-in mechanism that's kind of become a standard across the US drone industry to allow for all these different payloads to work together. So IF800, as you can see, that's our flagship system in terms of how many we're producing, much smaller, more user-friendly in terms of it's smaller. It really is what makes the big difference in terms of user experience across both our systems. They're exactly the same. Our IF1200, like you see here, this is a configuration we did for a university in California that was really interested in mounting a LiDAR system with a standard photogrammetry sensor along with the MicaSense camera on the same system to gain efficiency and to just drive different research avenues for their team. So that's one of the real big advantages of the IF1200 platform is its versatility, the ability to integrate, of course, with just the MicaSense cameras, but also integrate with a myriad of additional third-party payloads research academic institutions might be using. Also, the ability, what we've seen a lot on these from these organizations, one of the less commonly advertised pieces of our drone technology is there's large amounts of companion compute on board available to our customers to use. There's an Ethernet architecture that integrates all these payloads in all the various subsystems. So it's really easy for we've seen a lot of university programs bringing their own AI platforms, bringing their own autonomy stacks onto our drones to do more edge processing, to gain more value out of kind of how they're going about collecting remote sensing data. I don't know that this link here on the bottom works. Maybe it does. I doubt it does. But if you were to look up inspired flight magazines, we publish a ton of case studies. Over the last few issues, we've specifically focused on numerous case studies specifically done with MicaSense cameras and multispectral data analysis. Large use cases. Our customers are using these cameras from all the way from coastal erosion monitoring and bird migration monitoring to crop management for production agriculture environments. It's such a wide use case for multispectral data that, of course, the other guys on this webinar will probably get a little deeper into. Quickly just touching on, if you can kind of see in this video how the MicaSense integration kit works for the Inspired Flight system. This is a product that Inspired Flight along with MicaSense launched probably about 3 months ago at the tail end of last year. We came up with this new product that integrates the Altum PT series, the RedEdge dual, triple, and single cameras. It's a low-cost integration kit that, again, just plugs in to the drone. It includes the mounting bracketry for the tops of the systems for your DLS calibration equipment. And what this integration kit really allows for is kind of going away from maybe how many of you have used MicaSense cameras in the past, where you're fully setting them up on the ground and the camera is effectively independent of the drone it's being carried on. And while that's still going to be a very common workflow, this integration kit does allow you to interact with the camera while it's in flight for triggering, for setting adjustments, what have you. So that provides some cool features. And then just lastly, we work with Inspired Flight. We've got a support team, training team across the country, a very strong dealer network across the country and in some international countries, specifically like Australia and Japan. We'd love to work with you. We're very easy to get to. Support is one of the most important things to us, right along there with safety of the aircraft we produce. Hit us up. Always happy to have a conversation on our capabilities and dive further into technical details. So with that, I'll turn it back over to, I think Eric's next. Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot, Adam. That was great. Thanks a lot. Let's switch over to myself now.
Went a little quicker than I might have planned for.
That's okay. That's okay. All right. So what we got here? About MicaSense, I just want to tell everybody that we still exist, you know, because we've been already around for quite a while, since 2014 in Seattle. And what I want to say is that we have been acquired by Eagle NXT. Like there was a name switch. It used to be Ag Eagle, Eagle NXT, but MicaSense cameras are still around and the brand is still around. So our products currently are the RedEdge-P series and the Altum PT. So we come a whole way along from the RedEdge MX, the little red camera that everybody knows about. Then it became gray and everybody loved it. And then we made some new cameras. As you can see today, we didn't bring out new cameras for quite a while, but last year, we came with the 5 new spectral bands, which is the RedEdge-P green. And we had the great idea to stack them all together. And now we have a super spectral camera with 15 bands. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So just really quick, what are our cameras and how they are different, right? So one thing is with multispectral cameras, they have global shutters. So it doesn't mean you need gimbals, as you saw on the small video Adam just showed on how it is mounted on the IF800. There's no gimbal. It's a question that comes a lot. Why do I not need it? The camera takes pictures really fast, and a global shutter usually is good enough for vibrations. So it shouldn't matter. That's the reason why you can fly very low and still very fast, because multispectral cameras require big overlap. Yeah. Also important, our cameras, they are Q-tagged. It comes with the DLS, which is a GPS integrated. It has RTK capability. It can be almost integrated on any drone that can carry the weight, of course. And of course, the camera is made in the USA, right? So that's especially for US customers, an important detail. So we can deliver up to 15 narrow bands. I can tell you more about what you can do with each of these bands, because 5, you can do already quite a lot. Now we have 15. What more can you do? And of course, we have the thermal band from the Altum PT. The data are radiometrically calibrated. It's important. Not many people use that feature. I will explain very briefly why that is important and why you can really take benefit out of that option. And of course, our data is open and compatible with almost all processing platforms. And especially today, we have the honor to have Igor, who will explain how it works with Solvi. And of course, that's he makes sure that all the advantage of our cameras can be used in that software platform. So also MicaSense, it's not, we're working all over the world, more than 70 countries, our cameras are flying still, even the old ones. It's a very durable product, and it's a research grade camera. If you want to do a serious job, our cameras can be found in so many scientific publications. So really quick, because usually I don't show this image, but a colleague of mine showed it, and sometimes I think, okay, everybody knows what a multispectral camera does, and apparently it doesn't, right? Because we have these 5 multispectral bands, and it doesn't, no video stream comes out, it just takes black and white pictures, right? And then we give them a color. So as you can see here on the top, the blue image, that's how it looks in black and white, and the infrared and the red. So what we know is that the vegetation reflects a lot of light in infrared light. As you can see here, in the 700 and in the 800 nanometer, which is the frequency of the light. And it absorbs so much of light in the red and in the blue part. Only the blue, the green, and the red part is visible for us. That's why we say RGB image. That's the only part we can see, right? So an image is a little bit more green and a little bit less blue and a little bit less red. So that's why we see the vegetation as green, usually, as we can see here. We combine these three and you have an RGB image. So you can make all sorts of combinations and visualize different ways. You can visualize vegetation in different ways with like false color composites, but also make indices. That's what many people do with our camera. It's just one of the small features what you can do with multispectral images. So as you can see here, this is the graph of reflectance, right? If you talk about multispectral imagery, we always talk about reflectance values. So that's the percentage of light that's reflected by the plant and captured by the camera. It is important because it's like the measurement unit that translates to satellite images, handheld devices, and you can measure what's actually happening in the plant. So you can compare the images of one day with another day, or for one field with another field. So that is why we stress so much the importance of the calibration of the imagery. So you can actually work with it and not just take a snapshot of, you know, every day the lighting conditions are different. Okay, so this calibration, we deliver two calibration tools with it. So that makes us also quite unique because we stress so much the importance of this calibration, right? So we have the panel and we have the incident light sensor. So many people ask me, when do I use the calibration panel and when do I use the incident light sensor? Okay, first of all, you can work with the camera not using either of the two, right? Your imagery will not be calibrated a lot, but you can work with the simple NDVI index. That's something you can do. The best thing what you can work with is the panel, right? But the weather condition, the light condition should be more or less the same during the entire flight, okay? So when is the best time you can fly? Total overcast, no shadows at all, right? So that's the ideal situation. There needs to be enough light. Second best occasion, no clouds, full sun, also great. Worst case scenario is when you got some clouds around, you know, and you get shadows on your field while you are flying, right? And that's the part where the DLS comes in and to, you know, help a little bit these errors, these differences caused by very different lighting conditions. It is also important to maintain a very high overlap because, of course, sometimes a cloud comes over your drone, the sensor is in the shadow, but you will picture a spot of the field that's in the sun. When you have a lot of overlap, it should be okay. Then here, the triple. So the green camera, it came out in August, and we decided the specific bands because we had already the blue camera. We were offering already the dual camera with the 10 bands, right? And these 10 extra bands were not really delivering new information. So what's the information you can get out of a normal multispectral camera is NDVI, which is a structural index. It says how big is your plant, and everything related to the RedEdge band, which is around 700 nanometers, which gives you an idea of the chlorophyll content of the plant, which is how healthy is your plant, how good is it doing, right? And the blue camera was not delivering very much new information in that aspect, but more, you know, for environmental studies, people were requesting it, especially the new blue bands and maybe some variations in the infrared and the RedEdge, right? But now with the green camera, we can have 4 non-correlated biophysical indices, right? So one is based on the structure of the plant, the other one is the chlorophyll, and the new 2 ones are based on something else. Also, what makes this different, and that's I want to have some feedback is the hyperspectral sensors, right? That deliver hundreds of bands. We only deliver 15 bands. It's not a hyperspectral camera, but we do deliver quite a lot of information. And we really want to see how we can position ourselves and which other bands would be needed and deliver non-correlated information. Because if you have 100 bands and just study the vegetation, it might be a little bit too redundant. And we think with 15 bands, we can see most of the parameters we are currently looking for. So what can we do here? Of course, crop health analysis, that has always been the case. We can keep on doing that. Species identification becomes really interesting, especially for like invasive species, because we can work with the so-called spectral profile. Each individual plant has, all plants have more or less the same reflectance response, right, from the sunlight, but it slightly differs. As it differs of the healthy, the state of the plant, it also differs a lot between the species. We can see it, the different kinds of greens the different plants have. So the more detailed you got this spectral profile, the better you can identify species, right? And that's interesting, especially also for herbicide-resistant weeds, for example. Very big problem in the Americas. Also, coastal habitat mapping, ecosystem resilience, very important to be able to map species. So we have listened to our customers, especially those working in environment and also with resistant weeds in the fields. We want to not just know where the non-crop species are or different types of plants, we want to try to identify them. And for that, we really need to have better spectral information. So with a detailed spectral information, you can do that. So what you can do with the triple. So I told you guys we got like 4 non-correlated biophysical parameters. So you got the NDVI and the hundreds of variations of NDVI, which is saying, okay, your plant is this big because it's based on the infrared light. It says actually how many layers of leaves your plant has in the first place. Then classic, that's why our camera is called RedEdge, the NDRE. That was like the new thing 10 years ago. With the RedEdge band, we can talk about the NDRE, the EIP, the chlorophyll concentration of the plant. So these have been the 2 indexes we've been talking about. Among, next to that, the RGB image, the false polar composite. Why not the digital terrain model that you can get from any other camera, of course, but also from our cameras. So now we, with these new bands, especially from the green camera, we can talk about the carotenoids and the anthocyanins. So that's really important because we can extend the period that we can keep on monitoring the crop, right? Because when it gets over the peak and the energy of the plant goes into the grains and the leaves enter in a kind of stress of senescence, we cannot measure anything about it because the chlorophyll is diminishing and the structure of the plant remains the same. But if we can keep on monitoring the carotenoids, we can keep on monitoring the plant with the multispectral cameras, extend with 1 or 2 more flights when we want to see what's going on in our field, right? And then, of course, we got alternative biomass indices. We can make many more variations and also many more complex indices. And especially for the researchers among the public here, it's really interesting because we hope we need to have more information. We need more users to work with indices like PRI, right? So that is really the activity of the chlorophyll that can change day to day, and that happens within the plant. We see that from researchers working with multispectral cameras in greenhouses. We feel that people want to take it to the field, and we really hope that this product will address a lot of these question marks that are still around. What can we see in that part of the spectrum? So here are a couple of examples of how this spectral profile looks like. So this is actually one of the very first flights we've done with when we came out with the triple camera. We mounted them on a prototype of a mount, and we sent it to Japan because there is a researcher working with a forest that's hyper diverse. As you can see it here, this is a false color composite. It's a forest that contains between 20 and 25 tree species all mixed together. So it's the ideal test case for us to fly over that forest, and we can actually see that each of these trees has a very different profile, as you can see here. So my Latin is not good, so I can't tell what the real name of the English name of all these trees is, but you can really distinguish very well each of these trees and do species identification. So the reason that we wanted to do this test, because I'm a remote sensor myself, but I always used to work with satellite images, and resolution was not really my worry right now. But the importance of classification methods, new classification methods exist, because now we don't want to classify pixels anymore, because it's not for a satellite image, a pixel consists of different objects. Right now it's different. A pixel as such makes no sense. It's part of an object. So now there are techniques to segment these images, get these mean spectral profiles, and do a really novel follow-up of the vegetation, working with all the spectral information, but also all the spatial information that the drones can deliver us. So personally, I'm very excited about everything that's going to happen for the new users. I know we have a triple camera with the IF Tomcat soon be flying over the forest in Idaho, so I can't wait to see the results from these customers we're having there. So yeah, how do you buy the RedEdge? Do you have already a RedEdge camera? If you have an MX, unfortunately, you cannot add any of these. But if you have RedEdge-P already, you can add a blue camera to it, and you can add a green camera to it. So the way we want to open this up is to all these RedEdge users that are, they've seen and what they want to see, and they want to do more. They want to harvest more data, right? They want to do more things with the equipment they currently have. They can add 5 more bands or even 10 more bands. And of course, it comes with the smart dovetail, right? So we're very happy with the job Inspired Flight delivered with this very nice integration. You can configure the camera directly from the ground control station. So it's the ideal remote sensing kit, in my opinion, that you can find for a very good price right now on the market. It's also available for DJI, of course, but that's another story. So that is it for my part, and I am very happy to give the floor to Igor. For all those that have questions, hold your horses. When Igor is done, we will answer your questions. Up to you, Igor.
All right, thank you, Eric. All right, so hello everyone. I'm Igor, founder of Solvi, and for those who don't know, Solvi is software that makes it possible to efficiently analyze drone-based imagery for field trial assessments. And I'll briefly tell more about Solvi, and then we'll dive into how to collect the imagery with MicaSense multispectral data to make sure that the quality of the in-data is good. And then I'll show how practically to process all the data and extract the metrics on plot and plant level. So let's dive into it. So first, Solvi, as I mentioned, I'm a founder of Solvi and founded the company back in 2015. It was born out of collaboration with the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, and we are based in Gothenburg in Sweden. And if you have been in the industry for so many years, you probably know the state of technology back then. You had to mount all the cameras and sensors manually, like fix the gimbal so that the angles are correct, and it was far away from straightforward. And the same was the case for software. So there were no easy solutions to just click on a button and extract a bunch of metrics. So that's kind of how Solvi was born. And over the years, we evolved the software together with our clients from all over the world. And today we primarily serve commercial and educational researchers, but we also have drone service providers and agronomists who use our tools for the analytics. And at the heart of our software, there are two kind of analytics areas. We have the Plant AI tool, which is quite unique, that allows the users to train their own AI models to identify different types of crops, but also weeds in the imagery, and then even extract more rich data, so plant level metrics like the size of the plants, the health of the plants, and it works equally well with RGB and multispectral data. And then for those who work with field trials, we have a complete workflow for plot extraction, automatic plot boundary generation, so you can quickly create boundaries for your plots and then just choose which metrics you need and generate a spreadsheet with all the numbers. So I will show that how that works specifically with the MicaSense data from the Triple sensor. But before we even dive into like how to process the imagery, I would like to share a few words on like the best tips on how to collect the quality data, because as you know, bad data comes in, bad data comes out. So no AI analytics will help if the quality of the imagery is poor. And we process thousands of data sets each year and have seen the worst and the best use cases. So here are a few tips. So Eric briefly touched on some of these points. So one of the most important things is to maintain good overlap when collecting imagery, because when the imagery is then stitched into maps of the whole field, so field trials, it uses the process called photogrammetry, which extracts the common features from the images and then matches them together. And if there is just too little overlap between the images, the matching may not work well, and you will, in the best case, see different artifacts in the imagery, but in the worst case, the stitching may not work at all. When creating the flight plan and collecting the imagery, this is a nice image from MicaSense documentation here that shows how the ideal flight plan looks like. And we often see users like just flying in one direction with the drone and then trying to stitch that, and that doesn't work very well because then the images only have frontal overlap. So you want to make sure that you do at least 4 back and forth flight paths so that the images have both frontal and side overlap. Then when it comes to resolution, that's probably one of the most common questions that we get. What kind of resolution and what kind of altitude you should choose for the imagery. And that, of course, depends on the use case and the kind of analytics that you are planning to do. If you want, for example, to count the plants or detect very fine details like individual weed species, you want to make sure that you can clearly see them in the imagery so that you can, for example, train AI models to identify them. Then you want to fly somewhere between 10 to 30 meters, depending on which sensor you use, and collect the resolution of up to 1 centimeter per pixel, typically. If you're just looking to do vegetation index analysis or calculate indices like NDVI or NDRE, then the resolution is not as crucial, and even a few centimeters per pixels is good enough. So you just want to make sure that each plot is represented by enough number of pixels. And even at like 4 centimeter per pixels, there will be enough data in each plot to calculate reliable metrics. Then when it comes to data collection, Eric also briefly touched on that. So you want to fly in as consistent light conditions as possible, and the worst case is the rolling clouds covering the sun and casting the shadow on the area of interest. So you definitely want to avoid that. Then you also want to fly like around the solar noon so that you can avoid shadows or other things like that. And then most importantly, when collecting the multispectral imagery, you always want to do the calibration. Like not doing calibration at all is not an option, because then you will see, like even within the same data set, you may see the variation in the data, and it will just not work well for the research. And there are 2 ways to do the calibration. So all MicaSense sensors ship with reflectance panels. and also a DLS, the sunshine sensor that sits on top of the drone and records the incoming light. So we've done our own tests with the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences 2 years ago, where we compared the different methods, the different sensors, and see which calibration method is most reliable. And panels are the most reliable because they anchor the reflectance values to this lab measured reflectance panel. DLS works as a complementary data source. So if the light conditions change slightly during the flight, you may use this information in addition to the panels. So that would be my recommendation. Wherever possible, use panel, and then if the conditions during light conditions vary, you can use also the DLS data. So that's about the data collection and how to do it in the best way. Now, what does it look like after you've done the flight and have a couple of thousand images on the SD card or internal hard drive on the camera? And what goes into processing the data? So MicaSense have quite a few models here with different setups, and there are quite a few things to consider when processing the data. So first of all, the band alignment. So if we take the most advanced sensor here, the triple sensor, you can see that each band is represented by a dedicated sensor, and they are shifted relative to each other. So when the images are taken by each of these sensors, they will, of course, cover slightly different area on the ground, and that needs to be taken into account when the imagery is processed. So that's thing number one. Then, as I mentioned previously, stitching and georeferencing. So that's the process of taking all the overlapping images and putting them together. So it's quite a complicated and compute-intensive process where the images are matched together, the point cloud is created, and then the rectified orthomosaic is generated in the end. And once that's done, you want to calibrate the imagery. So that's the radiometric calibration step that kicks in after the orthomosaics is stitched. And then for some sensors, and I think all MicaSense latest generation of sensors have a panchromatic band, which can be used to increase the spatial resolution of the multispectral sensors. So that's the one sitting here in the middle. So that's the step called pan sharpening, where the data from this high resolution sensor is used to increase the overall resolution of the multispectral data. So quite a few steps, and at Solvi we try to streamline this whole process of processing imagery and extracting metrics as much as possible. So it's quite a straightforward process. You just essentially select the images, and we do all the heavy lifting and do all the steps without the users having to think about it. And here I would like to just switch and show what it looks like actually when using the service, so that you can see how easy it is. So first, when it comes to processing the imagery, you will want to upload the imagery for stitching so that it gets processed into the maps before you can extract any other metrics. And here I have a data set with about 1,600 image captures. So it's actually 100 captures consisting of 16 bands in each capture. So quite a few images, and as I browse here, this is what it typically will look like after a flight with a triple sensor. So you just choose all the images together and add them to the upload page here. And in the next step, the tool will extract automatically some metadata from the images and show the nice preview on the map, so you can make sure that you are uploading the right imagery. Maybe you've flown a couple of different sites during the day and want to make sure that you process each one separately. But then it also extract the metadata about all these different bands available in each capture. And as I click here on the individual image captures, we can see them highlighted here on the map, but also we can see this long list of individual images captured by individual sensors. And that is all grouped together. So when the imagery is later processed, the software already knows that these 16 images compose the specific capture. When it comes to calibration, as I mentioned, you always want to use the panel, and to do this calibration practically, you just simply take the 2-3 shots before the flight and after the flight, and just upload them together with with all the other images. So here we have 3 different captures with this panel. And then during the processing, these panels will be recognized automatically thanks to this QR code, and then this reflectance area will be identified and used for calibration. And in addition to that, if the light conditions vary somewhat during the flight, then you can also check for this option to use the data from the DLS. So that data is stored in the metadata in each image, so it can be extracted and used for calibration as well. And then it's simply just a matter of choosing how you want to organize the data in your account. You just choose the farm and field and click upload, and processing starts automatically and typically takes anywhere between 15 to 60 minutes for normal size data sets. And then once the data is processed, so this is the images that I've chosen that are already processed here in Solvi. So we can see one single orthomosaic composed out of this 101 captures. I've tweaked the field boundary here to just remove some stuff that is outside of area of interest from the analysis. It also here confirms that the panel was used for the calibration and shows the resolution of the imagery. And if you open here the orthomosaic settings, so this is a rendered image of red, green, and blue bands that we can just look at. But then behind that, we have all these other 15 multispectral bands that we can choose from. So we logically organize all these different bands, different wavelengths into red, green, blue, RedEdge, and NIR bands. And then you can choose which ones you want to use for visualization, but then also for vegetation index calculations. So if you, for example, toggle another wavelength of the blue spectrum, we can see that the orthomosaic changes slightly. And you can do that with all other bands as well. So that's step number 1. Choose which wavelength you want to use for these different spectrums. And then once you've done that, to calculate the vegetation index like NDVI or NDRE for the whole data set, you simply switch over to the plant health tool, as we call it. And here we have a library of the default indices, most commonly one used. So NDVI, NDRE, there are some that work with RGB imagery. So you can simply switch between them and visualize the data, and then just go to the export and download the index maps if you want the raster data. But that takes you just as far. So maybe if you're working with a bit more advanced use cases, you will want more indices. And that's where our index composer comes in. So under your account, you can just go in and see this library of predefined indices, but then clients reach out to us all the time with adding different indices to their account. So we've, apart from the most common ones, we have behind the scenes a bunch of other indices that you can think of, that you can just search for and add them to your account. So you just simply click, for example, on this WDVI index. It shows the formula and brief description, what it does. And then simply add to your account, and then it appears over here. Or if there is any index missing in our library, because there are literally probably over 100 of them, you can just compose an index here. And here I search for the index that Eric was mentioning here, plant senescence reflectance index, which uses this wavelength. And the formula is roughly red minus blue divided by NIR. So then we can just take this name, give it a name, PSRI, and then paste a more descriptive name, and then specify this formula, red minus blue. So each band has its specific letter assigned, and then divided by NIR. And then we simply create it, and it appears here as well, somewhere in the list. And once we've done that, we can go back to the data set and just reload the page so that the indices, the new indices, are loaded into account. Now we have those indices available over here as well. So, for example, we have this NDVI index that we can switch to, and the other one as well, the SRI. So that's great for like whole data set analysis. But if you're working with small plot research, you want to split this field into multiple parts in the plots, and then calculate the indices and other metrics individually. So here I already have some plots created. I will clean it up and just show how straightforward it is to generate the plot boundaries and then choose this newly composed indices for the metrics calculation. So I'll just set out a boundary area here and then choose how many rows and columns I want to have in this trial. So let's say it's 5 by 5. And then just choose the naming of them, and just like that, the plot boundaries are now created. To calculate the metrics for those, we'll go to the settings here, and here we have quite a bit of data to choose from when you have a 15-band camera. So first of all, we have metrics that we choose from, and then we choose for which data layers these metrics to calculate. So let's say we have this reflectance values of this specific wavelength for NIR and RedEdge bands, and then this newly calculated indices. There are other metrics that use other data layers, like crop height, for example, but we can leave it out for now. And then we just click calculate statistics, and in a few moments, all these metrics like average, maximum, standard deviation values are calculated for each plot individually, and they're automatically classified in a number of different classes. And then the final step, you probably, as a researcher, want a spreadsheet with all the numbers, and that's just easily done over here. You download a CSV file and then can plug it into other software, your custom scripts, or just work in Excel with that. So that's very briefly on how to go from this advanced data set with thousands of images to actually extracting metrics for each individual plot or experiment that you might be doing. And if you have the data already, you can sign up for an account in Solvi and do a trial and see how it works for your specific situation. So with that, I'd like to hand over the virtual microphone back to Eric.
Thanks a lot, Igor. It's great. The software changed a lot since the last time I had a look at it. So thanks a lot. I think it's really impressive. So yeah, we have some 10 more minutes left for questions from the public. So all those that have a question, please. I see some already put questions in the chat box. Please keep on putting questions. I will go quickly through the questions and find some answers. So the first one here is Igor, for you. Is it cloud-based software only?
Yes, it is. So you just upload the images, and all the heavy processing and calculations are done on our servers.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, Victoria Skoll, she is interested in the IFT quarterly magazines, the link, if you have a way to share it.
Yeah, let me grab that and I'll drop it in the chat. Okay.
Okay. Good idea. All right. Luke, of course, weekly, this will be recorded, and everybody who wasn't able to be on this webinar or want to have a look at it again will receive a link.
Eric, I think
yes.
you might only be seeing that link I just dropped. I think you have to reshare it to the full attendee list.
Okay, okay. All right, I will do so. Another question here from Jeroen Baert. What is the maximum ortho image size that Solvi can handle?
Technically unlimited. It just takes longer time to process. I think largest data set I've seen in our system was something like slightly above 20,000 image captures. So that takes, of course, multiple hours to process, but yeah, technically no limitation.
Okay. All right. Here, this is an interesting question from Adam Newhouse. I don't know, maybe it's for me or for Igor or for Adam, I'm not sure yet. Do vegetation indices suffer if flights are lower than 200 feet? Does your recommended altitude of 200 to 400 feet apply for small plots data collection as well? Personally, I don't see the problem. Igor, do you have an opinion about this?
No, not really. Not really. I guess like it's a matter of like the scale, how you want to optimize the flight time. If you're flying a large like production field, then you probably might want to fly even higher. But honestly, like for vegetation indices, you can have a resolution of everything from 4 to like 10 centimeter per pixels, and it will be just fine, which means that you have quite a big span of altitude that you can use.
Yeah.
If you're working with field trials, like small areas and flight time is not like a limitation, then you might want to go lower and just collect more detailed imagery. But yeah, there is quite a span you can choose from.
Okay, question from Jonathan Cárdenas Gallegos. I would be interested in integrating the camera not only for drones, but also into a static indoor phenotyping platform under controlled lighting conditions. Are there any firmware or hardware limitations that should prevent stationary indoor use? So that's a question for me. Yes, you can. And actually, we see that historically, we just focus on drones. The cameras are designed for drones. And we see more and more people wanting to use them in greenhouses as the application you are having. The only thing that you need to take into account is the fact that we have multi-array cameras. So especially the triple, it's between one lens and the other, there's quite a distance of probably 15 centimeters between one and the other. And the lower you go, the higher the parallax error becomes, right? So if you are going to move the sensor, you need to respect a minimum altitude of 1 meter minimum, maybe a bit more. But if you put it on a fixed place, we have some scripts that you can use that stack all the bands and that adjust them so they can match, the pixels match between each other. More questions. This is one for Adam. Are there any from Oleksiy Kovel? Are there any specific requirements for drone mission planning with such a large number of cameras?
That's a great question. We make it pretty simple through the mission planning software that you'll use when using an inspired flight drone. When planning your mission, there's basically a specific drop-down menu where you're going to select the camera that you're choosing, and it'll auto-populate things like focal lengths, information about the sensor, so that when you go to set your mission plan with whatever overlaps or altitudes you're trying to fly, for if you're working backwards from a specific resolution per pixel, it's pretty simple to plan that mission.
Okay, I have another question about more or less in the same about the same topic, Adam. I think they saw this most expensive setup of, I don't know which drone it was, like the LiDAR and a multispectral camera and RGB, everything what you can find mounted on the same drone.
Yeah.
So you can operate more than 2 cameras. Is there a special integration? How does it work altogether?
Yeah, that's a great question. You wouldn't be able to use two cameras that are being controlled by a single operator. For example, if we have the RedEdge camera on there, that camera is what is being controlled by the user. So very often we see customers then put something like a LiDAR payload, which has its own standalone photogrammetry module attached to it. Because for payloads like LiDAR, where we most commonly see this request of wanting to mount dual payloads to the aircraft, the LiDAR is effectively an independent system from the aircraft outside of drawing power. It's using its own GNSS system and effectively riding shotgun with the multispectral camera. The dual payload requests, they tend to be pretty simple for us, but especially not as much with the MicaSense cameras, but especially with the different LiDAR payload or other payload you'd be looking to mount in combination with it. Those, of course, all have nuances mechanically, electrically. So the best way to kind of learn more about a dual payload integration is by getting in touch with Inspired Flight, sales@inspiredflight.com. My email's here. Or also if you work with a local dealer that knows Inspired Flight is connected to us, they'd be able to facilitate that request, and it would go through a slightly more custom engineering process on our end. But we usually do probably averaging like 3 or 4 of those dual payload configurations a month. It's become much more popular than we really ever expected. The ability to use the IF800 just for a lot of versatility, especially for academic institutions.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Interesting. There's no limit on the amount of information you want to get, right? So this is, I think, a question for me. Is there a benefit of having 3 panchromatic channels on the RedEdge-P Triple setup, or is it only one of the band channels typically used for band sharpening? Right. Okay, good question as well here. So I personally wanted to have the order of the camera, first the red one, then the green one, and then the blue one, so then I can say it's an RGB camera. That's not funny. But anyway, the red one needs to go in the middle, and that's the master camera that handles the 2 other cameras, right? So, and only the RedEdge Red uses the panchromatic channel, and you can use the other cameras only the multispectral bands, but you can use that panchromatic channel to pan sharpen all the other bands as well. Okay, question for you again, Igor, about the thermal band. I have different questions here of people that are surprised that you can handle thermal data. Maybe you can say something about the specifications of working with thermal information.
Yeah, exactly. So that also happens automatically. So thermal sensor is available on Altum, MicaSense Altum, and Altum PT. And it requires a bit of like its own conversion. So I think it comes already calibrated, but then the data is represented in centikelvins units. So you need to run a formula there to convert them to degrees Celsius. So when we process, we maintain the original data format, but then when you view the data in Solvi, you see it in degrees Celsius.
Okay, interesting. One more question for Igor. Does Solvi allow GCP tagging, and what's your experience for the DSM accuracy using RTK images? Very specific.
Yeah, we do support both GCPs and automatically extract RTK data if it's available in the images. And what I've seen, like researchers mostly nowadays use RTK and use it for crop height measurements. So that becomes important if you want to use, for example, create a DTM like in the early growth stage flight before the crops emerge. So you just want to capture like the surface of a field trial and then later use it for crop height calculations. This becomes important, especially in corn, where like the crops cover the ground completely and you don't really see the ground level. Yeah. So that's the use cases where you want to either use GCPs or RTK so that the DSMs from the different flights align. But from what I've seen, like RTK provides sufficient accuracy nowadays. So actually quite very few people use GCPs nowadays.
Okay. Okay. It's already over the time. I think I will take 2 more questions. Right. I will make sure that all the questions get answered by the specialist of this panel. So, okay, one more that I want to answer from Gregors from Poland. I know it's very late for you, so we're going to answer it today now. So, given the pen sharpening alters the historic histogram distribution, modifies local contrast, and disrupts the spectral relationships between bands, what is the scientific or methodological justification for using this technique in quantitative radiometric analysis? You want to take that one, Igor?
I mean, I would like to ask that question. You like obviously, like when you do the when you do the pen sharpening, you are modifying like the pixels of the multispectral sensors with the data from panchromatic sensor, which is like quite broad wavelength. So yes, the data is modified.
I know from experience that the radiometric accuracy is like up till 5% off. So for those who really want to work with the spectrum, I recommend them not to do the pen sharpening, but use the high resolution data separately. So for example, if you want to do a segmentation of the image, use the panchromatic data and then use the pure multispectral data if you want to work with the spectrum. So I think the higher resolution is probably if you want to work with broad indexes like NDVI or NDRE, where that differences won't alter too much the data, but for real scientific spectral profiles, no pen sharpening, not recommended. Thanks a lot. Okay, one last question I'm going to take. That's one for Adam. Apparently, we got people from all over the world, and they want to know if you ship to other countries, specifically to Peru. Do you ship to other countries?
We work with one for South America and kind of Latin America in general. We work very closely with Drone Nerds as the dealer that represents us in those areas. It's hard for Inspired Flight to ship directly to those areas. Inspired Flight supports directly international customers in, like I said, Australia, Japan, some areas of Europe. But we work very closely with Drone Nerds as one of the largest distributors of drone technology and MicaSense cameras in the world. To serve those markets. I think we've delivered, it's not many, but I do believe we've delivered one drone to Peru in our history.
Excellent.
If you look into those case studies that I was mentioning earlier, one of the ones in my slide was actually an IF1200 system integrated with a MicaSense camera down in Brazil. So we do have experience down there. I will say, admittedly, right, we do not have very strong local support and repair services available in Peru. So some patience will be required if you end up in a situation where a drone or camera needs to be shipped back for any reason.
All right, thanks a lot. I think we answered most of the questions. You have our emails here. If you have a specific question or you want to have a chat with me, with Igor, or with Adam, you know how to do that. And I can only say thank you to Igor and Adam in the first place. I don't know if you have some final words, Igor?
Oh, thanks for having us. It was a pleasure.
Okay, Adam?
Oh, just fantastic to continue the relationship. And just from my perspective as the drone manufacturer that doesn't see the end user workflows as often, it's just incredible to see how much simpler they've become with softwares like Solvi compared to when I started this work about 10 years ago. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Igor. Thanks, Adam, for this wonderful webinar. And thanks for all the massive amount of people that was on the webinar and all the very interesting questions. Have an excellent day, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.